Anthony Joshua just saved his life and his legacy by coming back and winning back his belts masterfully. Very well done. Now first, let me put a disclaimer out there for all those people not thinking about the sport of boxing correctly, claiming that AJ ran. People really forget sometimes, but boxing is a sport, right? And ultimately the idea is to hit and not get hit. And fighters of all kinds are different heights, weights, ages, and you don't want to just run into a fight with no strategy, swinging haymakers and lose. It's like people who know very little about the sweet science have no respect for a skill set. There's just this annoying new school of people referring to defensive mastery as running. He's running, when no, this is not running. It's boxing. There are different styles to this game. And when people are able to fight defensively extremely well, it's skill. It's not easy. And if me and somebody else are both prize fighters getting paid millions of dollars to fight, and I can keep beating your face all night and keep confounding you and keep you from returning fire, well, I might choose that option. And if someone's doing that skillfully, then the burden of making the fight interesting is on the other guy. In MMA, better strikers don't complain and tell better wrestlers, hey, stay up here and bang with me. Wrestling's boring. But if you know you're a better striker and the other guy's at an advantage on the ground, well, it's on you to keep it standing. Respect strategies to win and respect the sport. You use whatever advantages you have to your advantage. Now, in the sport of boxing, if you're a shorter guy with power and speed, like Ruiz or Tyson or David Tua, you want to make it a phone booth fight as much as possible. You need to cut the ring off and get inside. But if you're a taller guy, like Joshua or say the Klitschkos, it is not to your advantage to stay tight and close inside, trading blows with shorter, faster, powerful guys. That's a good way to get yourself knocked out. Taller guys can use their reach to keep the distance, pushing a jab in their face all night. So Joshua wasn't running, like run where? He was executing a game plan and boxing and winning. And it takes skill to do that. So let's just stop the nonsense. But anyway, before we talk about that fight, let's talk about what happened in their first meeting. That was a bit of a shocker. I remember clearly I was in a bar and I was kind of half watching and distracted until I heard a yell and I saw Joshua stumble. And then I'm like, hold on. This is unexpected and this is a fight. They were trading blows, then trading knockdowns. And then at one point, I honestly did not know who was gonna win. And then it happened.
He's caught him with a sharp left hook. Joshua's hurt. 6, 7. Look into the eyes of Michael Griffin. But what an answer by Ruiz. Now here comes Ruiz. Has Joshua hurt the corner? Joshua is hurt. He's staggered, and he goes down again. That's a knockdown. Joshua's been down twice. 5, 6, 7.
AJ's very unexpected loss sent shockwaves throughout the boxing world. And to all the casual boxing fans who didn't really know either men, everyone was laughing at the spectacle of this boxing Adonis and sitting champion getting pummeled by the seemingly fat, unknown Mexican challenger. It was quite a spectacle and story. But once the jokes subsided, there was real conversation among real boxing fans. What happened? Well, one theory is focus. It seemed like a Rocky III situation, where Anthony Joshua was concerning himself with so many other things except Andy Ruiz, and he was kind of talking through him like he was a little speed bump. Well, for one, Ruiz isn't a little anything, and that might have been a big mistake. Anthony Joshua was hurt, and he was banged out of his game, and he was also shocked. He didn't expect this, so he didn't adjust very well. And consequently, he didn't fight his most intelligent fight. He was out because he was not okay. And something happens when you're knocked off your game and when you're not psychologically fighting the right fight. Because Ruiz hurt him and knocked him down. And he never really got his legs back. He was damn near concussed in that ring. And he was also psychologically knocked off his square. because again, Ruiz shocked him. And what he should have done was tied him up, held him, used his jab, he's 6'6", and keep him at bay for a little bit. Get on your bicycle for a round. But he didn't do that, because not only was he hurt physically, he was shocked and psychologically off his game, and subconsciously, he wanted to continue to lie to himself and to the crowd and say, I'm not hurt, I'm still in this. And unwisely decided to continue to trade haymakers with this guy, not being honest with himself that he wasn't okay and he could not afford to get hit again. And so he got hit again. Down he goes. And that's the thing about the fight game. It's very mental. And sometimes it's more important to be psychologically prepared for things. Because if it wasn't Andy Ruiz, he probably would have adjusted to that same scenario a little better. He thought it was another exhibition-like match before he had to finally face Fury or Wilder. Then suddenly it was like, oh no. Ruiz banged several million right out of his skull. Everything was flashing away and he didn't like it. This is why Joshua Ruiz 2 was so interesting and anticipated. This time, Joshua would be ready, no excuses, and his entire career and legacy was literally on the line. And for Ruiz, it was his time to prove that this was no fluke, that he is the champion, and this first-time champ winning the rematch would be epic. This was a very anticipated, interesting fight. One of the first interesting new developments was the weight. Joshua chose to come in a lot lighter, and Ruiz decided to come in even heavier. Why was he so big? But being big was kind of his thing, and people were just like, all right, whatever. There were some questions about that as to what that meant, but it is what it is. Now it's fight night. The tensions were high and there were question marks all over the place. Whose night was this going to belong to? Both men had almost equal reason to want this fight. They both wanted to answer the same questions and make the same statement, which was, yes, I am the real thing. As the fight began, it was clear to see that this was a different Anthony Joshua. He started to masterfully lead this fight from start to finish. It was a clinic. He did not make the mistakes of the first fight. He didn't get emotional. This man was boxing, and he was just clearly outclassing Ruiz. Guys like Ruiz are not ever out of the fight. He's always got a puncher's chance. From start to finish, even though he was losing, Ruiz is extremely dangerous. For a big heavyweight, he's got those fast hands and he's a hard-hitting power puncher. He could have turned the fight around any minute. That's why it was still engaging the entire fight. You still didn't know what would happen. Guys like him are not ever out of the fight. Ask Deontay Wilder. Wilder's completely different and has more power, but both men could still knock you out any minute. But it was just not Ruiz's night to be had. He never found Joshua, and Joshua ran away with a clearly one-sided victory. Joshua really earned his respect. He got beaten up, humiliated, but he focused in on his rematch and delivered. So what does this mean for his chances against Wilder or Fury? Well, not much. He's not 100% back where he was. There's still a chink in the armor. The first Ruiz fight was an eye-opener. When the holy trinity of heavyweight boxing, if you will, were all putting up wins, he put up the first L. And it was a bad L. Again, all three had tough fights. Wilder got wobbled and seemed in trouble for a minute. Fury got his eye bashed in, but they both won. Wilder did it twice. AJ, however, had a crushing defeat. But he's back and in great form. But there's still a lot of questions. He does not have the same advantages over Wilder and Fury the way he did with Ruiz and other fighters, because they're all big and tall guys. He can outbox Wilder because, let's be honest, a lot of people can outbox Wilder, but it doesn't matter. Wilder can split his head open in 1 second of one round, and lots of people feel that would happen. Of the three men, Wilder's the most dangerous, even though the other two guys are better technical boxers. Fury clearly outboxed Wilder in their meetup, but he also spent a portion of the fight on his back. So despite what anybody thinks, Wilder is still the guy that both Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury should be very, very concerned about. At any rate, for now, this was a great showing from Anthony Joshua. He really needed to win this, or it might have been over. And he won, like a champ. Now, what's the philosophical lesson to be learned here? Because I make few videos without one. I guess one of the lessons here is focus. Seems like these fighters kind of switched roles. And the first time around, you have Joshua, who was the champ, who was busy with press, business ventures, TV appearances, fans, and maybe came into the fight with not that much focus. And across from him was Ruiz, dangerous, hungry, excited to be there, and ready to throw. And guess what? The weight the two men came in for the second fight became a metaphor after all, for who was ready this time around and who wasn't, because the roles kind of reversed. Joshua was a man on fire, serious about regaining what he lost. And Ruiz, this time around, by his own admission, was enjoying himself, basking in the limelight, enjoying his new celebrity and the money and fun that came with it. So unfortunately, the fight wasn't that exciting, but it was great boxing from Anthony Joshua and a little lackluster from Ruiz. Ruiz will be back, and he already knows what he did wrong, so there's no sense in crucifying him over it. A lot of us would have done the same thing in the same situation, but it's definitely something to learn from. Myself included, there was many times in my life where I wasn't ready for the attention I received when it came to certain things, and therefore blew great opportunities. That's why it's very important to be in tune with your higher self, always looking at the big picture. Otherwise, you can always lose focus and always be pulled down into low vibrational nonsense. Buying cars and toys and partying, none of that is important at all. In this matrix, it's easy to have your vision clouded and be lured in and overtaken by meaningless temptations. And in Ruiz's defense, again, he's luckier than most people because most people are not going to get second or third chances. Even if he doesn't become champ again, he still has the opportunity to try. And he still has the opportunity to make some money and prove himself as a boxer in perhaps better fights when he's on his A game. Not necessarily the case for most of us. So whatever you decide to do in life, do so with honor and conviction. We're all good at something, and it's good if we don't squander our talents and abilities. It's a good idea to nurture that talent, train it, sharpen it, and be ready when it's our moment. And if you're fortunate enough to achieve your dream, it doesn't stop there. While on the mountaintop, also be ready to face the first real challenges that come your way while you're there. If someone beats you, let it be because he beat your best, because there's really nothing to be ashamed of about that. Try not to let it be because you couldn't conquer yourself. See you in the next video.